So this is sponsored training from Space Coast Pool School on proper disposal of pool discharge water. I met Amy, our speaker that we're going to have, through the Florida Environmental Health Association. She was in a training that I was doing for that group of people on hazardous materials as it relates to OSHA and OSHA 10 and general industry for pool service companies, pool builders, and the different chemicals they use. So she was in, and she had great info, I thought, on proper disposal of water. This is kind of a untapped industry that people really haven't thought of, the swimming pool industry and how they dispose of hazardous materials, right, Amy?
Yes.
It's a kind of that one industry that always gets forgotten sometimes. So we wanted to bring this forth, make you think about what you're doing, what your wastewater, when you're doing acid washes or any of these different things that you guys are doing. So I'm with Space Coast Pool School. I teach the certified pool operator course. I teach the certified pool inspector course. And I also now teach an OSHA 10 and general industry for aquatic professionals, which is all live virtual classes that you can take with me. So if there's anything else you want to find, you can find me on the website, spacecoastpoolschool.com. And all my contact info is there. But I want to get directly into what our main presenter, which is why some of you are here, Amy Crivan with Orange County Environmental Protection Division or something, or department. So she's in the environmental protection side. They're worried about the contamination that happens to their bodies of water if these swimming pools are discharging in there, because it can affect wildlife. It can affect aquatic plants, or I'm trying to stay simpler here, not get complex with vegetation, aquatic vegetation, which matters for the whole ecosystem in the lake or body of water. So we're going to talk about and hand it over to Amy, and she's going to present now on proper disposal of your pool water. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And you should be able to share your screen now, Amy.
Thank you. Thanks, Lauren.
Thank you for being here today as well. And it was very nice meeting you a couple months ago.
Yeah, I'm excited that we can discuss this topic with others in the industry. So I want to explain that where I come at it is from, I'm an employee with Orange County Environmental Protection Division, and we're worried about the water quality. So my team responds to complaints 5 days a week. So I want to caveat this by, I'm not a pool builder. I'm not building pools 5 days a week. So this is where I would love to receive feedback and comments from those who do this for a living. So we have in Orange County 600 lakes. And the number of lakes that are impaired in Orange County is increasing. That's why this is an important topic for us to share. So what does it mean when a lake is impaired? It's not safe for swimming. Probably don't want to eat the fish out of that lake. And for us, we send out lake alerts when we've collected water quality samples and found out that it's not safe for humans or for your pets. And so when a lake receives years worth of pollution, there's no magic potion that will restore the health of the lake. And the biggest example for that is Lake Apopka. If you're not from Florida, just Google Lake Apopka and you can read all about it.
Amy, are you able to hit slideshow and then do the slideshow? Because it'll make the slides bigger on the screen for people.
There we go.
There you go.
Thank you, Lauren.
No problem.
So why it's important too is that improper discharge of pool and spa water, it impairs our lakes, rivers, streams, and wetlands. A lot of people who move to Florida believe that when the water goes into the storm drain, it's going to be sent to a wastewater treatment plant and cleaned up. That's not the case. We had to create a Orange County water quality ordinance to maintain healthy water quality. So I mentioned I represent Orange County, but the state of Florida also has rules related to discharged water. And they're also charged with maintaining safe water for all of us. And there's the Federal Clean Water Act that designates this responsibility to the state and to the county. So in our documentation, if we send out a letter, we'll talk about the MS4. A lot of people don't really know what the MS4 is, and that's where our untreated water goes down the street into the stormwater storm drain, and it includes ditches, gutters, curbs. These are owned and operated by Orange County, and its purpose is to collect stormwater. So when we talk about the water that runs down the storm drain, it's an illicit discharge. If it's not rain down the drain, if it's something else, it's polluted water, it's an illicit discharge. And so what illicit discharge means is something that's not stormwater, or it's water that's polluted that goes down the storm drain. So here's some site photos from site visits where we've been called to go out. When I arrived on site, the staff member was emptying out the wheelbarrow, and his materials were heading straight down the storm drain. He was actually using the hose from the property and cleaning out his wheelbarrow, and it was going straight down the storm drain, not to mention all the other chemicals that were being used on this particular property. We see this a lot. I have talked to pool builders. What I have found is that some of them don't really want to provide the information that I need to determine whether the water is safe or unsafe. So it ends up flowing down the storm drain. It ends in the storm drain. And on this particular site, I've asked the pool builder to please provide me with the safety data sheet to tell me, what is this water made up of? I never received that. And they, stopped answering my phone calls or responding to emails. So I'm never sure what this water, what is in this water. Another problem is when the water flows directly into a lake. So this discharge water is entering Lake Spear, and this, if we collected the water, we would have to take it to a lab to actually determine what pollutants are in that water. So we've got some best management practices that we share with residents and with pool builders. So we have to reiterate for some people that are new homeowners in Orange County. They may have never owned a pool before or a spa. We have to educate them that both are require chemicals. Before you discharge it, you have to check the water. It must be free of contaminants before it's discharged. And we deal with property owners, pool companies, and subcontractors when we discuss best management practices. So when we are talking directly to a resident, we'll tell them, if you know you've got some upcoming work that's going to be done on your pool, you need to stop adding chlorine or salt several days before the water will be discharged. Generally, 10 days is adequate to dissipate the chlorine. When you know you're going to be discharging, the timing of the discharge is important. If you've just had your lawn treated with pesticides or fertilizers, you don't want to discharge the water on that lawn, because that's going to carry pesticides and the fertilizer into the storm drain. So this is an actual scenario in Orange County. We met a property owner and a pool builder on a site. The pool was built wrong. The pool builder had to discharge all 25,000 gallons of salt water. And the property owner lives on what we call an outstanding Florida water, an OFW, which is a lake that has very good water quality. The resident told the pool builder, just dump it all into my lake. So when you do that, Lauren's shaking her head, you kill everything that's living in that water, plants and animals. So what we came up with was that there is a company in Florida that will collect, they have trucks that will come out to the site. You can discharge all 25,000 gallons and they'll take it off site to discharge it properly. So luckily in this scenario, they didn't do it first and then come back and ask for forgiveness later. They called us first. We went out and we helped them come up with a solution to properly discharge of salty water, which is also chlorinated water. So pH test strips are really easy to use. We've got some that we bring out with us to sites. You want to make sure your pH is between 6.5 and 8.0, which is very similar to rainwater, the pH of rainwater. This is the result when your subcontractor dumps pool discharge water directly into a lake and the pH is 2. So in this position or on this site, we showed up on site, bring our little containers, put your discharge water in here, and then we test it for pH and for chlorine. The pH of this water was 2. So this was only one of multiple dead turtles and dead fish that immediately started floating on Lake Hancock in Orange County.
Do you know the scenario that caused the low pH? Was it due to like the contractor did an acid wash of the pool and then it was a discharge of that highly concentrated amount of acid water discharge into the lake?
Exactly right, Lauren. I'm glad you pointed that out. I'm going to add that to this slide. That's exactly what was happening. Yes. So this is something that I find so interesting when I talk to homeowners, and I'm going to assume that a lot of them are new pool owners. They don't realize that saltwater pools are actually chlorine pools. Sometimes I'm the first person that tells them that. So we have to make sure that they understand you're going to have both when you have a saltwater pool. So we also show residents how to check their chlorine levels. We bring out, when we show up on site, we bring our own chlorine test strips. We test it ourselves. If it's not 0, if your chlorine level is not 0, you need to wait at least 48 hours and test it again. Or if you're in a hurry, you can add sodium thiosulfate to neutralize the chlorine. Here's a picture of what it looks like. Although we're not endorsing this product, we're just letting residents know that there is this product for sale. We also show there are directions on the back of the container. It's pretty easy to follow. I'm happy to show pool owners how to check themselves. If you need to raise your pH, you can use soda ash. Also, there's some warnings on here when you're using it, and we always remind people, please read the directions before you start doing this. Like, don't just dump it in your pool. Please read the directions. Watch a YouTube video. We also have to remind residents that when they are the person that hires the pool builder, they become responsible. That's something that they usually don't know when they hire the pool builder, but when we have to write our notice of violation, we have to write it to the homeowner. So that's also where problems can come in when there might be a civil lawsuit afterwards. Also, some residents don't realize that if you discharge directly to your septic system, it may cause complete system failure. So that's a pretty quick PowerPoint about why we're concerned about water quality, but I would love for people to ask questions or provide comments. If you want to even email me, I've asked at least a dozen pool builders in Orange County if they would allow me on site while they're building, and I have yet to be given approval to show up on site. So if any of you do work in Orange County and you would allow me on site, I can put my contact information in the chat box and you can reach me that way.
And this will be up on the YouTube channel too. So your email is aimee.krivan@ocfl.net.
Correct.
So if you want to email her any questions, because you've watched the recorded version of this video and you have questions afterwards, at least, then you'll have her contact info that way. And you can, if you're a pool contractor, you come across this video and you have some questions. So what about when they're doing like a backwash? Because I saw your blue hose, and the blue hose is commonly they're backwashing a filter. So yes, you'll have pool water discharge coming out. Most of the time the pH should be a good pH, because if they've got the pool balance, they should have a pH between 7.2 and 7.8 anyway. But when they've specifically got like a diatomaceous earth filter is probably the most concerning when they're backwashing, if they're backwashing to a lake. Or we had one, I worked more on the public pool side, so did August. And we had one in our county. Our county is on the, this pool was on the river side, where the Indian River Lagoon. So we got a complaint into our county health department office that the pool contractor was backwashing their diatomaceous vacuum filter, and it was going to stormwater drain. It was going out to the lagoon. And I guess there had been a change made where somehow he's backwashing it to the lagoon and it wasn't going where it was supposed to go. He also did not have his diatomaceous earth separator tank, as our code requires on public pools. If they have a pressure DE or vacuum DE filter, it has a bag inside of it. If those of you don't know what I'm talking about, DE separator tank is going to have a bag inside of it. It's under pressure, just like a pressure filter, but it's going to collect all your spent DE when you're backwashing your filter. And then after you shut everything down and release the pressure, you can take that bag out. And we have some local companies that also like to dump the contents of that bag on the ground. And you'll have a big mound of old DE next to your equipment area. That's not where that belongs. It's meant to go into a garbage bag, and it should be taken to the landfill properly, where landfills have liners underneath and they have monitoring wells and all kinds of things going on to make sure that we don't have contamination from anything at the landfill. So those are some of the things I've seen with the things in the pool industry that was quite common, but we ended up they had to fix whatever at this particular public pool, and so that they were no longer discharging their pool water and spent DE into the Indian River Lagoon. Obviously, if you look up Indian River Lagoon in Florida, it's very fragile water ecosystem that has been damaged largely due to pollution like this. So I definitely know what Amy is talking about in this presentation, just from some experiences when I worked in the public pool world for 17 years. Do you have anything to add, August, from your end, being in Tallahassee?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of counties that have ordinances now where you have to have feeders for sodium thiosulfate when you discharge the water. I was trying to look for a picture of one. I couldn't find. I have many pictures, and I can't.
Is it an erosion feeder, or is it more like a Stenner feeder feeding, and then there's an agitator with the tank, or what?
Well, there's it would use the Borealis, the same thing that it's a tube that goes into a tank of liquid, and then so when you turn on the backwash, then it kind of like sucks it up like a straw.
Okay.
And mixes in with there. But I think I have a solid one, like erosion feeder type, but the most common one is the liquid feeder.
How many counties in Florida, just to give people kind of an idea, and I know not everybody in this presentation is from Florida, because I know Mick is from Texas, but you still want to think of the same things in your state, county, city, because it's pollution that you're adding to our local waterways. It doesn't matter what state we're in. Florida has a lot of water. We're surrounded on three sides by the ocean, but we have a lot of water within the state as well. And so we're drinking that water. It's part of our aquifer. So it's the same deal in any state. So if you're watching this and you're like, oh, this is Florida, this applies across the board to everybody in every state. So I want you to look at your local rules on pool water discharge. She had put up on her slide the Florida one through the DEP, through the Florida Administrative Code. Yours might be a more local code because you might be regulated at the county level, or it could be the state level. So, you know, you got to make sure you're aware of what your local rules are for the discharge. So anybody else have any questions for Amy?
I was just going to say that I know India or St. Johns County has an ordinance specifically. I don't know about some of the other counties. I've seen them in other counties, but the only one I know that actually has an ordinance to require those is St. Johns County. So if you want to reach out,
that might be something interesting for you to look at, Amy.
I'm writing that down right now.
Or you can, August, what's your contact info for Amy so that you can maybe work together on that, because she's collecting information. Because again, swimming pool industry is kind of that industry in a lot of ways that has gone, you know, unnoticed with this topic, with workplace health and safety, when we talk about how to store and handle hazardous materials correctly. And then this is what do we do when we're disposing of those hazardous materials that are within our pool water, which is definitely an important thing, because we need to keep our environment safe, because it's all about, we're drinking this water at some point, or we're swimming in it, or there's something going, we're doing something with it. It affects us no matter what. So, you know, this was a very big, important topic for me. So August gave you his info in the chat window for you, Amy.
Got it. Thank you.
Yep. So you guys, he's very knowledgeable too. He worked at the Tallahassee level, you know, in the public pool program. He was basically right underneath Bob Vincent, who's been up there a very long time in the public swimming pool program. And so you guys could probably chit chat and get a lot of good information because we are all Florida based. He's up in Tallahassee. He lives in Tallahassee still. So just, you know, anything we can do to help you, Amy, with, you know, understanding the industry and the different things that they do. If I can figure out, or anybody listening like she asked, you know, that's local to Florida, that might be in Orlando area, you know, she's in Orange County, so that's the Orlando area, who wants to allow her to be able to see what the different functions that you guys have, the different processes that you guys have to understand the pool industry better, helps us keep our environment and public health safe as well. So I don't know if Eloise or the other phone number that called in has any questions. Mick, do you have any questions?
At this time, I don't. I just think that it's really great that you put this together, because I've learned a couple of things. I didn't know about salt water affecting, you know, wildlife. That makes a lot of sense now. In Texas, there's still a lot of education to be learned. So the more information you can provide for us to improve in the industry would be great.
That's why I had Amy come in, because when I met her and we started talking about this is one of those things that I haven't seen a lot of talk about. You know, the industry does their thing, and then there's just they keep doing their thing, and then there's no talk about how can we make the industry better through training and just through education and getting it out there. Sometimes it's hard to break through too, Amy. It's hard to break through into this industry and make people think about it, you know, and that was the point here. It wasn't going to be a long training today, but it was a very specific topic, but I think it's going to make some people think.
And I've gone to the local pool stores here in Orange County, and I've asked them, because they have teams that go out and do all sorts of work on pools. They offer services outside of just selling products in their store. And I've asked, can I please join them? Like, will you just invite me to a site visit? And it's crickets, like they don't want me there. So as much like, so I'm only learning from the side of I'm issuing a notice of violation. That's the side where I learn. I haven't been able to learn from their point of view, like this is what we're actually doing. And I've told them, if you tell me, hey, Amy, there's no reason to worry, this water is safe, but you show me that it's safe, then it's no longer a problem for Orange County EPD. But I don't have that luxury of being able to say, they've showed me what they're using, that they've neutralized the water. They don't want us on site. Basically, they stop talking and they want us to leave the site. And so I'm only sharing the information from my side of the sidewalk, which is,
Right.
watching that blue water flow down to the storm drain.
And it would make you understand the industry a lot better. And then you might actually know that that water is safe and that there's not, but without and there's not a lot of education on that side and they view you as a regulator, Amy.
Mhm.
And so that's
say
where
that.
the wall goes up right there, and I can relate to the septic system too. Septic systems are not meant to be able to take that much discharge at that one time. Department of Health used to do septic permitting. It's still kind of done by them, but now it's under the DEP.
So while we've got others on this particular slurry, can anybody kind of give me a little bit of detail about what this is?
That's Marsite, what they're going to put inside the pool to finish it.
Mm-hmm.
What causes it to be blue?
They put pigment into the product. I mean, it's like they're just dyeing it's like, grout for the pool. They're just dyeing it a specific color to go into the pool.
So would this have a low pH? Like what would be the constituents of this when it's flowing? Because this actually did end up flowing down the storm drain.
I'm not familiar with the chemistry of those of Marsite.
Okay, so that's what I need more information on, the chemistry of Marsite.
Yep.
But a lot of them probably dust because they color it with different aggregates.
I know that when you go through the first 28 days, what they end up building up on the surface is calcium hydroxide, correct, August?
Yeah,
They get the calcium hydroxide dust that will, like when they're brushing it. And Mick might be able to attest to this a little bit more if he's done startups. Have you done startups, Mick? On brand new surfaces or pools?
Yeah, we do new startups. So what happens is, if most of the time in Texas, the builders, they don't actually inform the client that they should do a 30-day startup. I mean, I'm fighting with the builders, trying to let them know they shouldn't be using the pool for the first 30 days. New clients who get their pools built, they want to swim right away, so within 4 or 5 days. But the thing about it is they've got all this calcium. If the water's treated properly as the water before it goes in the pool, so that it keeps the calcium carbonate in the pool, in the plaster, or the calcium in the pool, in the plaster, then you have less to worry about being disposed of. And most of that does go into, in Texas, unfortunately, it does go into the storm system,
I'm thinking a good person that you might be able to learn some from that would be, they're an organization. It's the National Plasters Council, Amy.
Yes.
Ken Westfall is the technical director, and he's been in the pool industry for a very long time. I actually have an interview on my podcast coming up with him in the next couple of months that will be posted, but I could, after we're off the call here and not recording, I'll give you his contact info, and he could probably walk you through how to understand the makeup of this, because this is where they're doing a pool surface. So they're all about the surface and the building of the pool, and they get into the water chemistry in the first 28 days, but you're more concerned about this part of the process. What is the makeup of it? How do I know if it's safe or not? And this is where, like you said, you wanted to understand the processes, and you're not getting anything locally. this is a national organization. So, and they're very wonderful organization and love to educate. So they'd probably love to talk to you, Amy.
And the pool builder on this particular site told me that that was going, like they allow that, whatever they don't use, they allow it to harden. They put it in the back of that truck and they drive it out to the landfill. So he told me that's how they dispose of what hardens in that lined box. But the stuff that goes down the storm drain, the interesting backstory about this is that the manager of the HOA contacted us to complain about this, not because she had blue water flowing down her storm drain, but because she was afraid that that blue was going to stain the concrete.
Wow. So did you test the pH of that water at all?
That we did not on that one. We didn't have the inspector didn't have the any kind of container to capture it while she got out there.
Because I'm wondering if it would have ended up being a high pH if it's the surface. And I'm thinking with the calcium hydroxide that you get when it hardens, I'm wondering if it's going to end up being hydroxides are usually what bases. So it would raise the pH. Am I thinking correctly from my basic chemistry, August? Because usually our pool that gets resurfaced, which is doing new Marsite and all that, it's usually they have a high pH that first 30 days. They have a hard time keeping that pH down. And MPC told me if your local public pool regulations require specific pH and that pH cannot be maintained in that range, then the pool should be obviously closed per their regulations. And it's all stems from being resurfaced. So a lot of people try to reopen their pool right after it's resurfaced, and I would show up and they'd have a high pH. And then I do a reinspection and it would be high again. So, a week later, it's still high. So I'm wondering if this water would have tested with a high pH or not. It depends on whatever else is in there other than the surface material.
And Lauren, you just helped me with information that I need to update this PowerPoint, is that the majority of problems we receive complaints about is when the pool is getting emptied and they're going to re-Marsite. It's not as often that we get complaints of the first part when they're just building the pool. It's when they have to do that acid wash and etch the interior of the pool. Yep. That acid wash water is what causes that's what kills our lakes.
And they may do an acid wash, not just to do a resurface. They may do an acid wash because they've been trying to treat an algae, like black algae in the pool.
Okay.
And they've now resorted to draining the pool and doing an acid wash at that point. Or they've got stains, like if there's copper staining. I have a picture of a pool that's emptied. It's turquoise. It's supposed to be white. It's turquoise because they had improper water balance. It stripped copper from the copper heater element, and that copper deposited into the pool surface. So they're draining the pool to do an acid wash, like you said, to etch that top surface off to get that turquoise color out and get it back to its white color again. So there's a lot of different reasons why they may do an acid wash. And that if they don't neutralize that wastewater from the acid wash, that's what you're worried about as well. Mm-hmm. So these are all the processes that you'd like to learn so that when you're going out to a complaint or whatever, that, or, you driving by and you see something, that you kind of know what's going on. And this is the industry trying to work with the people. Don't work against your regulators, work with them. If they have more understanding what something is, they'll know if this is a danger or not, and they know you would know how to react. And I think it's better that the industry try to work with the regulators and the regulations instead of against it, because it makes us a better professional industry that I know we all are trying to work towards. The pool industry, it is very good. And then we have some people that are always outliers out there, So if we want to move our industry in that professional direction, this is one of those things too that we need to make sure that we're actually looking at. Workplace health and safety, how you handle the hazardous materials, but also how you dispose of them properly afterwards. So any other questions from anybody on here? All right. Well, thank you very much, Amy, and thank you everybody on Facebook Live that might have joined us. I'm going to go ahead and stop our recordings. So the live stream is stopped, and I'm going to stop the recording.